Before the first law was written on stone or parchment, before the first king sat on a throne, humanity learned right from wrong by watching animals die. Not by hunting them, by watching them judge. In the marshes of the ancient Nile, a feather decided who lived forever and who was devoured into nothing. In the forests of India, a monkey king taught an empire the meaning of sacrifice. And in the mountains of Mesopotamia, a serpent didn't tempt, it healed. We think morality came from philosophers, from prophets, from power. But what if the first guardians of justice weren't human at all? What if the gods who shaped your deepest sense of right and wrong had fur, feathers, and scales? And what if we've already forgotten their names? Imagine the River Nile 5,000 years ago. The air is thick with papyrus and heat. Crocodiles slide beneath the surface. Herons lift from the reeds like white flames. And on the eastern bank, a scribe named Ani kneels before a set of golden scales. His heart is about to be weighed, not as metaphor, as judgment. On one side of the scales, his own heart placed inside a clay jar. On the other side, a single feather, white, delicate, almost weightless. That feather belonged to Maat, goddess of truth, balance, and cosmic order. And she wasn't fully human. She was depicted as a woman, yes. But her identity, her power, was symbolized entirely by an ostrich feather. An ostrich, a creature that cannot fly, cannot fight lions, cannot outrun the desert sun. And yet, according to the Egyptians, the entire universe depended on its feather. Here's why this story matters today. You still carry Maat inside you. Every time you feel something is unjust, every time you say, that's not fair, every time you lie and feel a strange weight in your chest, that's the feather. But the story of how animal gods shaped human morality goes much deeper than Egypt. And one of the most powerful versions comes from a place you've probably never heard of. In the highlands of what is now eastern Nigeria, the Igbo people tell a story about thunder and a ram. Not a mythical ram, not a symbol, an actual ram with horns, hooves, and a stubborn temper, who once served as the voice of the supreme god, Chukwu. The story says that in the earliest days of the world, humans lived in constant conflict. They stole, they betrayed, they killed without consequence. So Chukwu sent the ram down from the sky to deliver a simple message: do not harm one another. But the ram arrived hungry, tired, and frankly annoyed. Instead of delivering the message with dignity, the ram bleated impatiently, stomped its hooves, and charged at the first human it saw. The human, terrified, killed the ram with a stone. And just like that, the moral law died with it. Chukwu looked down and said, if my messenger could not control his anger, then humans will never learn peace. And from that day forward, the Igbos say, morality became negotiable. Humankind had to figure out right and wrong on their own, because the animal god failed to teach them. Now here's where the mystery deepens. Archaeologists and anthropologists have documented over 350 African cultures that once worshipped or revered specific animals as moral guardians. Not nature spirits, not totems, actual judges of human behavior. The leopard among the Ashanti, the crocodile among the fawn, the hyena among the Dogon. But in almost every case, the animal god wasn't worshipped for its strength. It was worshipped for its memory. The Dogon say hyenas never forget a lie. The Ashanti say leopards watch from the trees and record every broken promise. The Igbo say rams carry the weight of every unpunished crime inside their curled horns. So here's the question that has kept anthropologists awake for decades. Why did so many disconnected civilizations, separated by oceans, languages, and thousands of years, all choose animals as the original judges of human morality? And why did they eventually abandon them? The answer lies inside a forgotten story from India, a story that changes everything we thought we knew about the first law of karma. The Valmiki Ramayana, written over 2,000 years ago, contains one of the most unusual moral trials in religious literature. A monkey general named Hanuman, the devoted servant of the god King Rama, is captured by enemy demons. They tie his tail with oil-soaked rags and set it on fire. Then they parade him through the streets of their capital, laughing. Hanuman, despite having godlike powers, does not fight back. He does not curse his captors. Instead, he shrinks his body, slips his bonds, and leaps across the rooftops, burning the entire city to ashes. Here's the twist. Rama later reprimands Hanuman for the destruction, not because it was wrong, but because Hanuman enjoyed it. And Rama says, "An animal who forgets mercy is still an animal, but a god who forgets mercy becomes a demon." This single verse reveals something profound. In early Hindu cosmology, animals weren't beneath morality. They were models of moral limits. The monkey taught loyalty. The elephant taught restraint. The serpent taught the cost of patience. But one animal, more than any other, carried the heaviest moral weight. The cow. We think we understand why, but we're wrong. The Avesta, the sacred text of Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, contains a chapter called the Lament of the Cow. It describes the only innocent soul in creation, not a human, a cow. According to the text, the supreme god Ahura Mazda created the cow as the first pure being. She lived in a garden without fear. But then the spirit of evil, Ungra Mainyu, invaded the world and murdered the cow. Her soul cried out, "For what crime did I suffer? I harmed no one." And Ahura Mazda answered, "You are the proof. Evil exists because it destroys the innocent. Remember this cow, and when you see suffering you cannot explain, know that you have seen her face again." For over 3,000 years, Zoroastrian priests taught that morality begins not with laws, but with witnessing undeserved pain. And the first witness was a cow. Oral traditions from the Pamir Mountains still tell a version of this story. Elders whisper it to children before their first act of charity. They say, "Before you give bread to a beggar, remember the cow. She never asked to be the first victim, but she taught us to defend the helpless." Now here's where the evidence takes an unexpected turn. Linguists have discovered something strange. The ancient Sumerian word for justice, nigsisi, literally translates to the thing that makes the ox turn. Not the law, not the truth, the thing that makes the ox turn. Sumerian farmers observed that oxen, when overloaded or mistreated, would simply stop walking. They wouldn't attack. They wouldn't run. They would refuse. And the Sumerians called that refusal justice. This changes everything we thought about the origin of moral language. Before humans had courts or constitutions, they watched working animals say no, and they built their entire concept of fairness around that moment of resistance. The ox taught humanity that justice is not punishment. Justice is withdrawal of cooperation when the burden becomes too great. You still feel this today. Every time you quit an unjust job, every time you boycott a corrupt company, every time you silently refuse to participate in a lie, you're performing the morality of the ox. But there's a darker twist, and it comes from a place where the animal gods didn't just judge the living. They judged the dead. In Tibetan Buddhist cosmology, there is a creature called the Shinj, the Lord of Death. He sits at the center of the wheel of existence, holding a mirror and a scale. But Shinj is not a demon. He is a yak, a massive, shaggy, mountain-dwelling yak with eyes that have seen every rebirth since the beginning of time. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes what happens when a soul approaches Shinj. He does not ask about beliefs. He does not ask about prayers. He asks 3 questions. Did you feed the hungry? Did you shelter the cold? Did you lift the fallen? And here's the twist. Shinj cannot read your mind. He only knows what the animals of the world witnessed. The bird that saw you drop bread for a beggar. The dog that saw you kick a stray. The insect that saw you cry alone. Tibetan tradition holds that animals are the archivists of karma. Every moral act is recorded not in celestial books, but in the bodies and memories of the creatures who watched. Which means you have been judged your entire life, not by a distant god, but by the sparrow on your windowsill and the cat in your alley. But if that's true, then what happens when we silence the animals? What happens when we cage the witnesses? Here is the deeper truth. The forgotten animal gods weren't abandoned. because humanity became more advanced. They were abandoned because humanity became more comfortable with hidden cruelty. Consider this. In ancient Egypt, killing a cat, even accidentally, was punishable by death. Not because Egyptians love cats, because they believed cats saw into the human soul. A cat would refuse to enter the home of a liar, would hiss at a murderer, would sleep beside a grieving child. The cat was a moral censor. But as cities grew larger and strangers lived among strangers, societies could no longer rely on animal witnesses. They needed written laws, prisons, judges who could read and write. The animal gods were replaced by human institutions. And slowly, quietly, humanity forgot that morality was once visible, something you could see in the behavior of a dog, the flight of a crow, the stillness of a grazing cow. But here's the revelation that changes everything. The animal gods never left. You still know, instinctively, that an animal can sense goodness. You felt it, the way a strange dog approaches you calmly or a horse relaxes under your hand. That is not imagination. That is the oldest moral technology on Earth. Indigenous cultures never forgot this. The Maori of New Zealand say that the hokioi, a giant eagle that went extinct 600 years ago, still watches from the clouds. It judges not your actions, but your intentions. And it screams when a human plans harm before the harm is done. The Ainu of Japan say that bears carry the souls of unavenged ancestors. When a bear appears in a dream, it means someone has been wronged and has not spoken. The San people of the Kalahari say that the praying mantis created the first moral law. Do not kill what speaks to you. And they still refuse to harm mantises today. These are not superstitions. They are surviving fragments of a global moral system, one that did not depend on scripture or police or punishment. It depended on shared witness. And the reason you feel awe when you look into the eyes of a wild animal, that is the echo of a time when you believed that animal could judge you. You weren't wrong to feel that. You were remembering. So why does this matter to you right now, watching this video? Because we are living through the greatest moral crisis the animal gods have ever witnessed. Industrial farming, deforestation, the sixth mass extinction. Every day, humans commit acts of cruelty that no ancient society would have tolerated because the witnesses are gone. The rainforests are silent. The oceans are empty. The skies have fewer birds. And without animal witnesses, moral accountability has become abstract. You can buy factory-farmed meat without seeing the suffering. You can click buy now without knowing which forest was burned. You can scroll past extinction without feeling the weight of a single feather. But the old stories tell us something urgent. Morality requires witnesses. The animal gods didn't judge humanity because they hated us. They judged us because they saw us. And being seen, truly seen, is the foundation of accountability. The cultural reconnection that you're searching for, the sense that your life means something beyond productivity and consumption, it begins here. Not with a new philosophy, but with an old one. Go outside, watch a bird, sit near a tree, notice the animals that notice you. Ask yourself, if this creature could speak, what would it say about how I live? That question is not poetry. It is the oldest moral technology on Earth, and it still works. The feather of Maat still waits on the golden scales. The ram of the Igbo still carries unspoken truths in its curled horns. The yak of Tibet still watches the wheel of existence turn. They have not forgotten us, even as we forgot them. So here's the question the animal gods have been asking for 10,000 years. The question that will follow you long after this video ends. If no one was watching, would you still choose to be good? And if an animal is watching, would you change your answer? What animal do you believe carries the oldest memory? Not the one you fear, the one you feel when no one else is around. Tell me in the comments, because the animal gods are still listening.